And good afternoon, everybody. Joe DiGregorio checking in with you from Southwest Louisiana weather. And today we're going to be covering both for Southeast and Southwest Louisiana concerning Tropical Depression 19. There are some things that are of concern and of note that need to be addressed. And I want to stress right now that this is still early in the game, so things are going to change as far as forecast for rainfall and probably intensity and forecast track. And right now you see the latest forecast track from the National Hurricane Center, and I don't want you to focus on that, folks. What I want you to focus on is the cone of error. As you can see, as we get into Sunday in this area here, I have a large area of uncertainty, mainly because steering currents aren't going to be all that great, and this thing is going to slow down dramatically. And as we know, the longer a tropical system sits over open water, the more time it has to strengthen, and that is the case. As of now, National Hurricane Center has this thing becoming a Category 1 hurricane and potentially a landfall just east of New Orleans, with maximum sustained winds of 81 miles per hour with a gust to 98. That is a strong Category 1. Could it potentially go to Category 2? Yeah, it's possible. I'm not going to rule that out. Is it going to go any higher than a Category 2? No, I don't see that happening. The main issue at this point is the relaxing of the shear along with the steering currents. Given that the shear is going to be relatively very weak and low, with sheared systems, we typically see that outlier feeder band that extends well east away from the core of the storm. And why we will probably see that outlier feeder band, which is typically responsible for a large amount of flooding wherever it sets up at. With this thing, you're probably going to see more of a compact type storm, and thus that little outlier feeder band is going to be closer to the center of the storm. And what that means is the bulk of this rainfall is going to be confined around the tropical storm or hurricane itself, and that does not bode well. And at any point, this thing could take a jog to the west from anywhere from Sunday and to Monday morning. It's very possible. I don't see it shifting to the north of that track, going potentially towards Mobile or Gulfport and Biloxi. I think we're going to see a continuing shift to the west, probably a landfall around the mouth of the Mississippi River, maybe somewhere between there and Grand Isle. That's my best thinking, my best guess at this point. That's still, given the slow forward speed of this, that's still going to push a lot of water up on to the northern Gulf Coast, and in the Lake Borgne and the Regalese, Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, you're going to see significant surge, and coupled with the astronomical high tide, given when that occurs, although surge data is not available from the National Hurricane Center as of yet, I would not be surprised to see a 3 to 5 foot surge out of this. Not saying that's what's going to happen, but don't be surprised if that's what they forecast. And you know what that kind of rise does for those of you that live in those areas along the North Shore and in the New Orleans area. So again, you need to prepare for the potential for the surge. Now on top of that, let me turn current radar off here, and I'm going to take the forecast cone off of here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in here, and right now this graphic that I'm fixing to post is the QPF, quantitative precipitation forecast. It gives a generalized picture of widespread rainfall totals. And what I want you to take a look at right now, and this is subject to change, and it's going to change. These colors indicating the amounts of rainfall are going to change depending on the track of this system, and I want you to understand that before I put this up here. So now that we've cleared that up, here's your quantitative precipitation forecast. Now get your bearings. Here's New Orleans. Over here you see Baton Rouge. Okay, and here's Slidell. There's Waveland, Biloxi, and Gulfport, Mobile Bay over here. Now, these yellows, 10 to 15. The brown, 7 to 10 inch. This orange color, 5 to 7 inch. This bright red and reddish orange is 3 to 5. And the purple and the dark red is your 2 to 4 inch range. And as we get closer and move forward in time, you're going to see these bigger rainfall totals on the forecast shifting further to the west. And so this is something I'm going to address now. If this thing does take a more westerly track than what's right now forecast, so I don't want you to focus on this single line, this forecast track. Okay, that's a best guess. I showed you the cone of error, and my thinking is that this thing does pull north, but I think it's going to take a more westward jog with it, and that is something that you need to be prepared for if it does. As it stands right now, New Orleans, you're in the let's say 4 to 6 inch range, possibly 5 to 7. If these browns are the 7 to 10 inch rainfall totals continue to push west, then you're going to see some pretty significant issues. Street flooding, yes, that's a given. You get a typical thunderstorm, drop 2 to 3 inches of rain quickly, you know what happens. The pumps can't deal with that. So hopefully they lift the restrictions in New Orleans where you can park up on the medians where it's a little bit higher, in those areas that typically flood. I'm giving you advance heads up now, it's coming. How bad is it going to be? That remains to be seen right now. You're certainly going to see some tropical storm force winds out of this thing. That's a given as well. So you can prepare for sporadic power outages. Same with Slidell, Picayune, Bogalusa, along the Louisiana Mississippi border here, St. Tammany and Washington Parish, and over here into southern Mississippi counties. Power outages, heavy rains, potential for isolated tornadoes on the east side of this thing, gusts, probably to hurricane strength, depending on what happens with this. Sustained winds, coastal areas, you're going to see sustained winds of hurricane strength, gusts approaching 100 miles per hour, and that's according to the latest forecast. Right here, winds of 81 miles per hour sustained, gusts to 98. So this is a potent hurricane, although it is not a Hurricane Laura. It is potent nevertheless, and this track right here would be a worst case scenario: Lake Borgne, Pontchartrain, and Maurepas. Why? Because it's going to be a slow mover, and you're going to have all that water being shunted out of the Gulf and slung right up into the lakes, the tidal lakes here, and you're going to see some significant rises. If this thing was moving quickly like Hurricane Laura was, the surge would be negligible, or manageable, I should say. We saw a surge in Lake Charles, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been had it been a slow mover. So each storm is different. Don't focus on the category of the storm. What you need to focus on is the forward speed and the potential track. And slow movers potentially bring the higher surge. Okay, understand that. That is a scientific fact. So again, these rainfall totals are widespread amounts. Okay, these aren't your localized higher totals, and you could see locally double these amounts in certain areas. So again, I need to stress that what you see right here with these totals, these are widespread averages. Where the band's set up at, and you get training over the same areas, you can potentially double these numbers. And Baton Rouge, Baker, you're not out of the woods either. You see these bullseye here, and down here through Thibodeau, and these dark purple areas here, you can potentially see 3 to 5, 4 to 6 inches of rain if you get a training effect. So again, and potentially more if this thing tracks further to the west, which I think it will. So bear in mind, Monday and Tuesday is probably going to be nasty. If you don't have to be out on the roads on those days, stay your tails home. I'm telling you in advance, Monday and Tuesday is going to be nasty. Stay home. Monday for New Orleans, Monday evening into Tuesday for points further north. And depending on how far west this thing tracks, will depend on how far these heavier rainfall totals shift west as well. So with that said, let's turn on our satellite imagery here, and you can see 19 is just about to exit into the Gulf of Mexico, and you can see this really big blow up of convection. And I'm willing to bet that this forecast track is probably going to recenter itself, probably somewhere down in here, in this area. I just had that funny feeling. We've seen these things happen before, and I was looking at the satellite imagery, the animated, and I think this center is going to be repositioned somewhere down here. We'll see what the hurricane hunters say when they get out there, and in fact, let's see if they're out there right now. We'll pull it up, and I'm not seeing anything as far as the hunters right now. We're getting a new update, so all the data is down for this system. So here in about 20 minutes we'll have new data, and we'll see what happens with the new update. In fact, right now I'm going to go take a look and see what their 1 p.m. update is. Let's see here. 1 p.m. No, it's still the 11 a.m. advisory. Okay, so the new update isn't out yet. As far as the graphics go, let's see. Okay, the public advisory is now issued. They're still working on the graphics at the National Hurricane Center, but now we do have a tropical storm. You can say hello to Tropical Storm Sally, and maximum sustained winds 40 miles per hour, gust to 55, moving west 270 degrees at 7. Minimum central pressure 1004 millibar or 29.65 inches, and no tropical storm watches or warnings are up for the northern Gulf Coast as of yet. The center is now 35 miles south-southeast of Naples, Florida. So that would put it somewhere in here. So it is out over the Gulf now, okay? And once we get the new update on the graphics here, it takes about 15-20 minutes for it to extrapolate from National Hurricane servers into our software here. So we do now have Tropical Storm Sally. It has developed faster than previously forecast. So again, this does bear watching. You don't see a whole lot of shear with this. There is some, but not a whole lot. And we'll take a look at satellite imagery and see exactly what we have to let's take a look at a satellite here in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. Let's see. Give me a minute to navigate to it. And okay, channel loops, and let's see here. That's not the one I'm looking for. Let me go back. Let's just give me a second here. Let's see, tropical pressure 19 geo color. There we go. Alright. Alright, so we're gonna go bring up the give me a second here. Be loops. Made a GIF. Downloading the animation here, so just give it a second and we will get you started here. Alright, downloading this. Okay, let's bring you over to the browser. We'll clear that out. Now, the plotting the center somewhere right up in here, which would be north of the convection, northwest of the convection, and we're going to have to see if that center shifts and we get the wraparound. And you can start to see in the final images of the loop here, you can start to see we're starting to get some wraparound here around the center. So this is a clear, and especially the flare up of thunderstorms, and you can see a second vorticity right here under the thunderstorms. So we have a displaced surface low and the upper low, and we are starting to get some outflow banding, Jesus, on the outskirts of Sally. So this thing is starting to get organized fairly quickly, and again, prepare for a hurricane. Category 1 minimum. That's my recommendation right now. Prepare for at least a Category 1 hurricane. Where is it going to make landfall? That's still to be determined yet. You can see high pressure is continuing to take effect here. You start to see you've got your clockwise rotation here, and you've got, I showed you earlier that the high is centered up here over the southeastern United States, and we'll take a look at that again here. Let me close this and bring up Weather Studio here, and you still got a little bit of a ridge here. That's going to retrograde, and it's already beginning to retrograde to the east, and you have your frontal boundary here that's stalled down here. This trough, basically it's going to wash off the board, and your trough's going to lift up to the north, and that's basically going to be zonal, and then you'll have high pressure slide in underneath it and build, and it'll be right here over the southeastern United States. So how strong that ridge will be, probably not too strong, but it's going to be just enough to steer this thing very slowly, and I still think we're going to see a westward shift in the track, closer to the mouth of the Mississippi River or over towards Grand Isle, somewhere in that area, and before we start a turn to the north. So again, at this point, you know, this is all preliminary. You need to pay attention to updated data from the National Hurricane Center. Stay tuned to your TV meteorologist. I I don't know who's doing what in New Orleans. I don't really follow those guys down there. Um, Steve and Jay at Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, those guys are always doing something uh, live on Facebook. So I think Jeff as well. Again, make sure you're following those guys and make sure your notifications for all live videos from them are on, so that you can stay updated when you get a live notification from them. You need to watch, because they'll go more in depth and detail than I will. I try to keep things simplified instead of getting too technical and losing 90% of the people when I start getting technical. So I try to keep this as simplified as possible for you guys, so it's easier to understand without getting too technical and bringing up a lot of technical meteorology terms. You know, to me, that's the best delivery with this. You know, if I need to get technical, I will, and I have on occasion, but it presents issues where I have to answer a gazillion questions. Well, what does this mean? What does that mean? And then I have to go answer everybody, and it's usually a repetitive question. So another thing is, do not ask, how much am I going to get in my neighborhood? How strong are the winds are going to get? I can't tell you. Nobody can. We'll know when it gets here, basically. So we can give you generalized ideas as we get closer to showtime. But for now, plan for, at the minimum, a Category 1 hurricane coming into southeast Louisiana. What parts? That remains to be seen. I still think this is going to drift more southerly of the forecast track, and we'll see what the National Hurricane Center says as we get that data from them. And I'm going to see if the graphics are up for the new update, and it is. Okay, so looking at the new data, I'll switch you guys over here. Browser, turn on. Okay, here's your 1 p.m. update on Sally. Actually 2 p.m. well 1 p.m. Central Time update, and the forecast track has not changed. You can see it still remains a tropical storm up until it gets just off the Louisiana coast from the mouth of the Mississippi River, basically south of the Mississippi-Alabama state line. It becomes a hurricane. That's 8 p.m. Monday. 8 a.m. Tuesday. It looks like it's getting ready to make landfall east of New Orleans, and then it tracks right across into Regalese and Lake Pontchartrain, and then over Slidell. It makes a pretty hard dogleg to the right, and right now I don't see that happening, that sharp of a turn, but we'll see. Anything is possible. And again, I think this track does shift further to the west. We'll see as we move forward. But again, prepare for a hurricane, folks. It's coming. Surge information probably won't come out until probably sometime tomorrow. In fact, let me take a look and see if we have any surge information as of yet. No. And what I'll do here is we'll take a look at most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds, and potentially you see the yellows and starting to get into the oranges and browns. Monday night into Tuesday, potentially Baton Rouge, you could potentially see some gust of tropical storm force, and certainly in New Orleans well before that. Monday morning, probably in the New Orleans area, you're probably going to see some winds gusting to tropical storm force. It's certainly going to be breezy. So, again, the very slow movement of this storm is going to be a very serious issue for rainfall and flooding. New Orleans, you need to prepare for that. I've addressed this before. You know what happens during your regular summertime thunderstorms. You get 2 to 3 inches of rain in a short amount of time, and you have some big issues with street flooding. And this is going to be more significant than that. So prepare for that eventuality. If you live in low-lying areas that typically flood, plan to get your vehicles to a safe location. And I'm not telling you to evacuate, but if you have no other choice and you have friends that are somewhere else that are in areas that aren't prone to flooding, go ahead and go stay with them for a couple of days, until this is over with. We don't know if all the pumps are going to work in New Orleans. There's always some kind of issue, regardless of what officials tell you. If it's going to, they say, oh yeah, everything's working fine. And then when it's showtime, you only have half the stuff working. Okay, so, I'm not going to play politics with those guys. It's just a fact, okay? There's always something. So, you need to bear that in mind. You folks down there know what you're dealing with, and you should know how to prepare for that and protect your property. It's as simple as that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this so the file isn't too large, so I can get this uploaded to YouTube. You won't see my Joe accounts posting. They're in Facebook jail again, thanks to Antifa. And probably a couple other people had something to do with that as well. So I got 28 days left on that. So my alternate account is posting on the weather page and in the weather group, but that account is not part of Southeast Louisiana Storm Spotters. So Justin will be sharing whatever I post on the Southwest page and here on the YouTube page account as well, so that you can stay informed. I suggest that you monitor the Southwest Louisiana weather page in addition to your local TV meteorologist, National Weather Service in Slidell and Lake Charles, and also the National Hurricane Center. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this. We'll have another briefing probably tomorrow for video briefing, and for the rest of today and tonight, I'll just post static updates, regular static graphics, and if I need to, I will go live. Or not live, but I'll do a video on YouTube. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again soon.